Good morning. It's 8:36. This is Open Mic, and it's cloudy, dreary day. Some rain headed this way. It looks like a wet day ahead. Right now we're at 61 degrees. And my guests this morning, I have two guests, one on the phone and one here in studio. In studio, Al Fenner, and on the phone, Chuck Achter. We're going to talk about Browerville Days coming up also, but actually we're talking about stories not lost, and Chuck Achter is kind of a historian when it comes to this, and Al has been involved with this and also trying to get a museum in Browerville. Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing?
Good morning out there, everybody in Radio Land.
I tried to drive to Radio Land once. I couldn't find it. It's not on my GPS.
You can never trust them.
No. And Chuck, you're calling from where?
I'm right now. I'm in Maple Grove, Minnesota. My son and daughter-in-law and granddaughters live in Singapore. They also have a townhouse in Maple Grove, and they're here. I just brought them up here from Ames yesterday. They're ready to fly back to Singapore. I'm going to be leaving to go back to my home in Ames, Iowa this afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I go through Ames, Iowa quite a few times because my wife is from Central Illinois.
Well, now you're going to have to stop.
Yeah.
Have a visit with me. Yeah.
Hey, now, did all this start with the Browerville Connection thing last year? Is this how it got going? Tell us.
Yeah, it did. A big shout out to Ron and Jane Brown for getting that started and pulling us together last year. And I got involved with them by giving some presentations. And Jane has all these trifolds of Browerville history. And that's what got it going. And then a shout out to Joanne Benning. I was sitting at a table with her after one of the presentations, and she said to me, "You've got to give these in Browerville." And so we started thinking about it and figured out that with the help of Marty Host and a lot of other people that doing it during Browerville Days at the Community Center would be the thing to do. So that's how we got Stories Not Lost. And I sort of coined that term because we don't want to lose the stories of the valuable people that went ahead of us. I don't know how many times my sisters and I have said, I wish we would have asked my mom or my dad that or whatever. And we just want to let the next generation know that this generation or past generations brought a lot of history and to carry that history on. So that's a long answer, Cliff, but that's how it got started. So we're all set for the 27th and 28th of June from 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock. We'll be in the community center. And we ask people that want to come just to mill around to look at all the memorabilia that Ron and Jane Brown have put together. There'll be a couple of people there with history-type things. Sue Wishkala, who is just an unbelievable person with the military history. She'll be there with all of her books to look up people from Browerville, over 1,400 people that have been in the military. And then we'll have 3 presentations. I'll be giving one at 10:30 on Friday on life in Browerville in the 50s. And then the senior citizens go to the liquor store for their annual lunch that they have there, come back and mill around again. And then on Saturday, I'll be giving a presentation at 10:30 on life in Browerville in the 60s. And then the VFW Auxiliary will be providing a lunch for $8, thanks to Sue and her group. And if you've been in the military, you'll get to eat free. And then my favorite presentation comes at 1 o'clock, where I'll be telling the stories of the true stories and tough stories of World War II and the common man. My dad's history, along with his older brother, John Achter, and also, well, all of us probably remember Mr. Dressen. He was in World War II and in the Battle of the Bulge. And because of being able to get letters that they sent home and things like that, and actually I visited the Battle of the Bulge area and had a tour guide and was able to walk where my dad went, being able to put all that together to an authentic story about what that common person. And when you do the history, over 400 and some men from around the Browerville area were common men that were the heroes of World War II. So how's that for a short answer, Cliff?
Yeah, and my dad was in World War II. He was in from the beginning to the end. He enlisted in April of '41. Of course, the war started after Pearl Harbor, but so he was in North Africa, and he was also in Italy. So there's been a ton of people that from Browerville, like you said, that have been in World War II.
Well, Cliff, and I'm sure your dad, like my dad, probably had hardly ever been out of Todd County much.
Right.
And then all of a sudden at 18, they're in basic training someplace, and all of a sudden before they're 19, my dad on his 19th birthday was on a boat going across to England, and 2 months later he was in the middle of Battle of the Bulge as a 19-year-old. That's that common man that made the difference, like your dad and all the others in the war.
Right, and a lot of those guys on D-Day, they had never been in any type of conflict before.
Not at all. That's so true. Yep. Yeah. I've got letters that after my dad passed away and my aunts passed away, my cousin found letters that he had sent, all the letters that he had sent to his sisters and his sister-in-law, and he talks about being in a foxhole for the first time and what went on and things like that. It's, yeah. And then, like your dad, my dad came home as a common man, and my dad worked at the milk. I had a hard time finding a job after fighting in World War II. Worked at the milk plant and then was a rural letter carrier his whole life. And then that's the story of that common man in the war. So, yeah.
Your dad was my mail carrier.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
neat.
Leo was our mailman until he retired, and that was a long time.
Yeah. He spent a life opening up mailboxes and putting mail in and being happy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
and
let me tell you just one last thing.
Sure.
To get all this history, I was fortunate because I had been a professor at Iowa State. I had a status to be able to get things from around the country. And I contacted, through the help of Ron and Jane Brown mentioning things, the Minnesota History Museum, and they sent me all of the Browerville Blades on microfilm from 1950 to 1970. So a couple of years ago, I spent time in the Iowa State Library going through every single Browerville Blade for 20 years.
Wow.
And that's how I put together these two presentations and looking at what went on in Browerville. And also, as you probably remember growing up in Browerville, you're sort of in that, it was such a wonderful place, and I can't say that enough, that you just spent time thinking about that. But I parallel that to what was going on in the United States during that time. So that's what we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about the music of the 50s. We'll be talking about TV programs. We're going to be talking about the cars that people had, and get people to remember that in the 50s, we had 5 grocery stores in Browerville, 5 little grocery stores. We didn't go to the big box places. Yeah.
Right. So now the displays, I remember being at the Browerville Connection last year. There was multiple displays. I mean, are you going to be able to get a lot of those in the community center?
Our goal is to get all of them there. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. For people to see and to walk around and look at them and sit down and have conversations with their friends about, yes, I remember this or I remember that. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And Al's been working pretty hard in getting some things together for your museum, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we can talk a little bit about that.
Well, this is going to be our big push to get our museum organized. I guess I have to say we are getting very close to having all of our ducks in a row, and Browerville Days will be our big push for signing up new members. We're gonna have a museum membership. Everybody can be part of it. And then we can get into working on fundraising for getting a permanent home. One of our mottos on this is going to be, and it'll be on our banner, preserving our history for the future. And some years back, I got started on this idea that there needed to be some sort of recognition for the founders of Browerville, and the founder of Browerville was the instrumental reason we ended up with Itasca Park in the state park system. So a lot of people don't realize that. And we've got very notable people that were born and raised around Browerville and so on that people don't think about. So I just feel that it's very important that we get the word out there and something for future generations to learn and appreciate. And again, I have to thank Ron and Jane Brown in that. Jane was very instrumental in, you're gonna work on the museum. So I've tried to do my very best.
Right, and I don't know if people realize that before Browerville there was a village of Hartford, which was down by the river, and once the railroad went through, they picked up the wood and left town. I mean, they made Browerville that.
Yes, the building that sits on the corner across from City Hall is one of the original buildings of Hartford that they moved it in. And I'd be fascinated to see if there was any pictures of them moving it, because back then you would have moved it with horses and mules.
Right.
And that's a pretty good sized building.
Is that the Collard building it used to be?
Yes.
Right.
It's fun to look down the street from it too. The thing is, ever since I've been in town since 1964, it's always had a little lean to it.
But no, there's a lot of interesting things that people don't realize. You know, like if they went to the Browerville Connection, they would have saw so many things. I mean, I could have spent hours looking at the displays.
Yes, they did a phenomenal job of putting all these trifolds together. I was down there on Sunday for my presentation, and I got to walk through. I could have spent the whole day looking at stuff, because you look at one and, oh yeah, I remember that, and
sure,
I remember them, and so on and so forth. It's just fascinating.
Are you still looking for items, historical items for Browerville?
Not right at this time,
okay.
But once we get organized and we can have a building, yes, we will be interested in acquiring items to put on display for people to view.
Sure. So, Chuck, what is your favorite memory of Browerville growing up in town?
Yeah, my favorite memory in Browerville is having a group of young boys riding our bikes going to, how many of you people that are listening remember the old movie Sandlot? But before Sandlot, there was Mace's Lot, where Tommy Mace and Danny Mace lived. There was a baseball lot. We played baseball there forever, and it was Tom's team that was made up called the Rhubarb Nationals. My team made up of the people closer to where I live. We were called the Southsiders, and we played baseball, we played football, and then in the evenings we'd go up to Walt Blankish's and we'd play wiffle ball there, and we loved to Sundays. We found a window that we could get into the Browerville High School and play basketball all the time there. So yeah, just that core of young guys just playing sports all the time. Those memories just well in me. I loved riding the bus home from athletic events and Roger Fisher singing Roy Orbison songs, and us just those types of things are you can't beat them, Cliff. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I remember the first time I ever saw Al, I always talked to him about this, was he was playing in a rock and roll band, and I think it was a homecoming dance in Browerville, and I was like 13. And I went there, and I remember the song they were doing. It was Johnny Rivers' Mountain of Love. why I can remember that at that age. But anyway, and they had a couple other guys from Browerville, but they were pretty decent. And even at that age, I was already getting interested in music. So that's one of the things I remember. I don't know why it stuck in my brain so much, but now I have the famous keyboard player in front of me.
Actually, Cliff, I think it was prom.
Was it prom? No, it couldn't have been prom because I was too young.
Okay.
You probably played both, though, maybe. But it was a homecoming dance, I remember. Because I didn't get out very often living on the farm. My dad would have to take us in. And so that was one event I got to go to that time. But, yeah. But I remember proms were usually Jack Dressing's highlight of the year, and he'd have these big bands come and play. Remember that?
Well, we had prom during the middle of the week when I was in high school, like on a Wednesday night.
Right.
Because you could get the big name band, somebody who was an offshoot of Lawrence Welk, and they could come and play. We'd have a dinner, and the gym was just unbelievably decorated. Yes.
Right, and then the late 60s came and the kids said, we want rock and roll bands. And that's how it went. But no.
I think the beautiful, I moved away from Browerville at 18, and physically my jobs have never kept me close to Browerville, but my heart has always been there because of the great people that I had around Browerville that helped me in those memories of those people. I don't think and I've been in education my whole life, and I don't think a day in my life has gone by that I haven't used some of the values from my parents, the church, the community member, the teachers that we had have influenced me. So my heart has always been there. I've always wanted to give back to Browerville, so this is a way of giving back to Browerville. Yeah. And, Cliff, growing up, we had such great opportunities to be in music and be in the plays and being in speech and being in athletics because of the smallness of the school. But you mentioned Jack Dressen, but because of him helping us think that we were better than we really were. So, yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Wasn't your mother a teacher?
My mother was a teacher also, yep. She taught me elementary school.
She was my teacher in the 5th and 6th grade, I think.
Oh, wow. Neat. That's neat. Yeah. Neat memory. Yep.
Right. And Al, did you go to school? You didn't go to school in Browerville, or did you? No.
No. No, I'm an immigrant to Browerville.
But hey, you've been there for a long time now.
Yep. Be over 60 years, close to 65 years.
So now, will there anybody of interest that will show up during Browerville Days during this?
We are hoping that the people of interest are the people from Browerville,
right?
Who want to be the common people, just to remember things and keep them talking about it and getting them excited about history. I have the first thing that's going to be donated to the History Museum. My uncle John, who was 8 or 9 years older than my dad, had a yearbook that my cousin gave to me. Believe it or not, Cliff, you remember the name of our yearbook in Browerville was The Roar. Remember that?
Yes.
The Roar? Well, in 1930, it was called The Vibrator.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Strange.
I've got that so those kinds of things, to get people to remember those kinds of things. Our goal with this would be to have a room in our history museum that would be dedicated to the military, a room that would be dedicated to the Browerville School and all of the things that we remember from the Browerville School, area that would be dedicated to the rural community, the farmers and what they've done, the people who served Browerville, like the firemen and all those types of people, to the businesses, and I'm probably missing some things, but areas of that, and we would be looking for donations to make it a really a wonderful space.
Right, and I remember at the connection thing, you even had the history of all the churches that were in town. Some are gone now, but that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. To think that at one point there were 2 Catholic grade schools in town.
Right.
Bring back that history, yes, for sure.
And of course, and in the surrounding area, a lot of country schools.
Well, my mother came to Browerville from Holdingford, and she taught in a one-room schoolhouse to begin with, and that's how she met my father. Yes, yeah, yeah.
So now Alan went around. He's been working on this museum thing. Where are you at right now?
Right now, as of today, I got one more signature to get on our incorporators, and then it goes up to our accountant in Eagle Bend, and he will be able to take care of getting our 501c3, and we will be off and running.
Well, that's good, and encouraging a lot of people to come out during Browerville Days that probably didn't make it to the connection deal last year, because I think they'll be amazed by what they could see there.
Yes, and we're also Browerville Days, or the museum committee is we're planning a raffle. We have a Patriots jersey from
That Tom Brady guy.
Tom Brady guy that has been donated with his signature on it, and there is going to be a couple pieces of laser art that have been done by the school and so on, and we're going to have I can't even remember now, but there's 5 or 6 things that we're going to be raffling off. So that's going to be our start of our fundraiser, and signing up memberships and so on. So we're going to be off and running big time.
Cliff, before we have to end this,
right?
We've also created a YouTube channel for Browerville history, and our goal is to have interview people that are there and ask them, just like you asked me, what's your favorite memory of Browerville growing up, and be able to keep those so we can have them at the History Center. And our goal is also to record the presentations and record all of the trifolds and have it available for people on a YouTube channel. For people that, I know a couple of my classmates live outside of Minnesota, can't come, and so they can watch it and get excited about Browerville again.
Well, I want to thank you guys. We got about 45 seconds left if anybody has a last comment.
Thanks for bringing that up, Chuck. I forgot all about it, but yes, that is going to be great that we are in the technological age.
And thanks to Roger Hirschfeld from the Browerville Schools for helping us. So
definitely.
Appreciate all the people in Browerville that have helped us. Yep.
Well, it was a pleasure talking to both you guys.
Thank you, Cliff.
Yep,
we will see you in 2 weeks.
Right. Chuck Achter, Al Fenner, of course, Stories Not Lost at the Browerville Community Center. That's coming up during Browerville Days. You can learn about the 50s, the 60s, the military, and a lot of other great things that went on in the city of Browerville. And be sure to check that out. Hey, you guys have a great day, and thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very
you
much.
Too.
God bless you.
Yes. That is Open Mic.
Country music.